Welcome to Breakup Cheater, where we share the stories polite society pretends don't happen. Stories of betrayal, obsession, and the shadows people hide behind. If you think you know someone, think again. Some poisons don't burn the throat. They slip in quietly, hidden in a sip of wine or a bite of dinner, disguised as love. Tonight's story is about a woman who thought she'd married a fairy tale, until she found the fairy tale was trying to kill her, slowly. And in the quiet halls of their mansion, between crystal glasses and whispered lies, she began to fight back. The poison in the wine glass. My name is Clara Hastings, and 3 years ago I thought I had stepped straight into a fairy tale. A girl who grew up bouncing through foster homes, now living in a palatial mansion in Pacific Heights, married to the man glossy magazines called the visionary of the West Coast. My husband, Sebastian Lorne, wasn't just handsome. He was magnetic, impeccably dressed, impossibly confident, and carrying the kind of presence that made people lower their guard without even realizing it. From the outside, my life looked perfect. And tonight was supposed to be another perfect night, our 3rd wedding anniversary. I had spent the day preparing. The house glowed in warm, golden light. The dining table glittered with crystal stemware and imported china. The air smelled faintly of truffle oil and citrus cream sauce. On the marble island, I was slicing heirloom tomatoes into precise crescents for a salad, while the wild mushroom risotto simmered on the stove. The halibut, my own recipe, was nearly ready. The wine was chilling. Everything had to be just right. Then it happened again. The knife slipped from my fingers. A sudden dizzy twist ripped through my skull, warping my vision into a swirling kaleidoscope. My knees weakened. I clung to the counter, nails pressing hard into the cold marble, my breath shallow and jagged. This wasn't the first time. The spells had started 2 months ago, creeping in like shadows at the edge of my days. First I thought it was stress, then maybe low iron dehydration, hormones. I saw doctors. They ran blood tests, EKGs, even a full-body MRI. The results: perfect health. They labeled it migraines, barometric pressure sensitivity, anxiety. But none of it felt right. What unsettled me more than the symptoms was Sebastian's reaction. Instead of concern, there was irritation. Another episode, he'd muttered last month when I nearly fainted over breakfast. Clara, I swear if it's not one thing, it's another. I can't remember the last time you were normal. And don't even bring up kids. Maybe if you weren't so fragile all the time. I remember staring at him, pale and trembling, trying to hold my fork steady. For 3 years I'd been the perfect wife, hosting parties, smiling through his mother's barbed comments, making sure every social event went flawlessly. But lately, it felt like he didn't want me by his side at all. He'd stopped inviting me to business galas, brushed off my suggestions of weekend getaways. When I offered to bring him lunch at work, he told me not to disrupt his flow. I was starting to feel like a ghost in my own home, a home that felt less like a dream and more like a marble prison. I wanted to believe in us, in him, in the man who once kissed my forehead and told me I was the only real thing in his life. So I ignored the dizziness, kept slicing the tomatoes, stirring the risotto, perfecting every detail, telling myself that maybe, just maybe, if everything was flawless tonight, he'd remember why he loved me. The next afternoon, while cleaning the kitchen, I found it. I opened the cabinet beneath the sink to throw away some vegetable scraps, and there, at the bottom of the trash can, was a small red and white cardboard box. Not from anything I'd bought. Picked it up. The label was in English, the name long and clinical, ending in Zen. No prescription sticker. No dosage instructions. Just a warning. Keep out of reach of children. May cause severe drowsiness, confusion, or cardiac irregularities. A cold ripple crawled up my spine. I searched the name online. First just pharmacy listings. Then I dug deeper. Medical databases, technical descriptions, and my stomach twisted. It was a potent neuroleptic, typically used to sedate patients with extreme psychiatric conditions. Side effects: dizziness, blood pressure spikes, loss of coordination, heart palpitations. Long-term use could cause toxic liver buildup or sudden cardiac arrest. This wasn't a sleep aid. This was a chemical weapon in a pillbox. And it had been in our trash. When I called Sebastian, he answered on the fourth ring, voice curt. "Clara, I'm in a meeting." "What is it?" I explained what I'd found. He laughed short, mocking. "You called me in the middle of the day about garbage. You're bored. Get a hobby. Yoga, shopping, whatever. Sweat the crazy out of your system." His dismissal stung, but more than that, it confirmed something I hadn't dared name. Someone wanted me sick. Someone wanted me quiet. And I was done pretending not to see it. That night, our anniversary dinner was staged like a photograph in a magazine. I dressed in a deep burgundy gown, hair in soft waves, makeup flawless. When Sebastian walked in, he paused, looked at me like I was a painting he'd forgotten buying. "Wow," he said with a smirk. "You clean up nice." Dinner unfolded smoothly. Too smoothly. He was charming, attentive, performing. And when I excused myself to get dessert plates, I knew exactly what he'd do. The camera hidden above the stove was the size of a peppercorn, perfectly angled at the table. 15 minutes later, I returned to find 2 glasses of wine poured. I sipped mine, just enough to sell the act. The dizziness came later, sharp, familiar. At dawn, after he left for work, I retrieved the camera and reviewed the footage. There it was, clear as day. Sebastian, alone at the table, reached into his blazer pocket, pulled out a small packet, the same red and white brand from the trash, and emptied it into my wine glass. Then into my salad. Not an accident. Not carelessness. A methodical, deliberate act. I didn't confront him. Not yet. For the next month I played the perfect wife. I accepted his drinks, soups, desserts, pretended to consume them, then poured them down the drain or into a hallway planter. I kept every packet, documented every instance. The sicker I pretended to be, the sweeter he became. Flowers every morning whispered, "I just want you to feel peace in the dark." As if he were already rehearsing my eulogy. But I wasn't dying. I was collecting evidence. When I finally contacted Lena Ford, an old friend who worked in cyber investigations, she didn't hesitate. She dug into his movements, his contacts. 3 days later she had him. Photos of Sebastian with a woman named Dr. Angela Voss, a nurse with a history of quiet settlements and misplaced medications. 3 times a week, same boutique hotel. There it was. The motive. The reason. That night, I set the folder and the camera on the table between us. He watched the footage. His smirk faded. His shoulders stiffened. Then he saw the photos. Him and Angela, her pharmacy connections, the unregistered prescriptions. "You have 2 options," I said, voice low. "Sign the divorce papers. Or face a trial for attempted murder." He stared at me, jaw tight. "You've been spying on me." I leaned forward. "You've been poisoning me." Silence stretched between us. Then he laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Guess you're not as stupid as you look. And you're not as smart as you think." I wasn't after his money, his cars, his suits. I was after my life. And now I had it back. Some people believe betrayal ends with heartbreak. But for Clara Hastings, betrayal meant survival. She walked away not with his fortune, but with her life. And maybe that's the darkest truth of all. Sometimes the person who swears to protect you is the one you should fear the most. You've been listening to Breakup Cheater. If tonight's story kept you looking over your shoulder, you might want to check your wine glass before the next toast. Until next time. Stay curious, stay careful, and remember, under the blood moon, nothing is what it seems.